Hello and welcome to Let's Talk About Money. Today I have Shannon Lee Simmons with me, and she is an award-winning certified financial planner, speaker, best-selling author of not one but four financial books, a chartered investment manager, and founder of the New School of Finance. She is a personal finance writer for the Globe and Mail, as well as CBC Radio's Metro Morning Money columnist. Welcome, Shannon.
Hi, I'm so glad to be here.
I'm so glad to have you. So let's get right into it. For people who may not be familiar with your work, how did you get into financial planning? And I'd love for you to speak a little bit about what inspired you to start the New School of Finance.
Wow. Okay. So, I've always been a person that is really into, I say money, but I don't mean money for the sake of wealth. I just like, how am I going to do that? How are we going to do that? Well, money, life costs money, right? So how am I going to go on that vacation? How are they going to do this? And so even as a teenager, I was always like making plans, like trying to figure things out. And I started on Bay Street. I worked in investment management, high net worth clients at a firm called Phillips Hager and North, which eventually got bought out by RBC. But in those years, I realized working with people who are like very, very wealthy, they have the same, like I say this with so much love, like during the 2008 crisis, everyone's freaking out. It doesn't matter if you have millions or if you have nothing, but I remember being like, what are normal, like not normal, but like, where are people that don't have millions of dollars going? Like, where are they going? And at the time I realized like not with young people, especially I was young at the time, didn't know where. So I wanted to change that. And then I discovered like my favorite thing was always financial planning, not even the analyst part, because I love people. And that's where people and money kind of mix.
Yes.
And so then I started the New School of Finance. I quit in 2010 to start my own thing, and I never looked back. So I've been running it for a long time. And it started as being like a fee-only financial planning firm. So it was unbiased, it was affordable. And so I have clients who are like maybe talking to me about consumer proposals, and other people who are like, I have millions of dollars, what do I do? So because we don't have investment management minimums, I can talk to anyone about anything.
Yeah, that's incredible. Can you talk a little bit about maybe some folks who are listening have never worked with a financial advisor? So what makes the New School of Finance a little bit different from something that's typical?
Your typical, so New School of Finance is something called advice only or fee only. That's like the catchphrase. And what that means is you sort of pay for our time as financial planners to get a plan versus paying through your investments or through your insurance products. So typically, let's say that you went to a financial advisor that was working within a financial institution where they manage your money. So they have your RSP or they have your tax-free savings account. You don't like write them, you don't send them an e-transfer after you meet with them, because how they're making money is off of the money that you've invested with them, or maybe if you've sold you a life insurance product or something. We don't sell product and we don't manage the money. So you do pay for it, like for the time. And that allows us to take anyone, right? So that you don't have to have an investment management minimum. And number two, it allows us to be completely unbiased, right? So if you're asking me if you want to pay off your mortgage or your RSP, I don't make more money off of you, depending on which one you choose. And so that's always really sat well with me. I really love the idea that I don't mind if someone wants to buy a rental property. That's cool. I don't have any bias going into it. So that's what I think makes New School special. And we're really affordable. And that was something that's always been really important to me too, is that trying to keep it accessible financially for people so that they can get access to good quality financial advice, even if they aren't like, a super wealthy person.
And I think as somebody who's in the financial space, and I kind of live in that space online too, it's sometimes really difficult to get good advice that applies to you. And even Canadian advice, it just doesn't exist out there. So I think that's an incredible initiative. I also love the agency that your clients can now partake in, because they are the ones doing it. They're getting the information and then they're able to actually action these things. That's incredible. Love it. So let's change gears a little bit. You've done all these things, but I send all of my guests a pre-interview form and I ask what your zone of genius is. And you said your zone of genius is the financial lives of teenagers and preteens. What draws you to these kiddos?
Yeah, so it's actually relatively new. It's my current zone of genius. How about that?
Love it.
Yeah, my zone of genius is basically like helping people do things, like, you know what I mean? Like that's literally what it is. And I'm applying that right now to these teens. And it started relatively organically. A few years ago, as I said, in my day-to-day life, I'm doing like retirement planning or financial planning through New School, and had a lot of my clients who have teenagers and tweens saying, Shannon, I can't, like my teenager and I are fighting about money. I can like hear my financial baggage being handed on to my children. Can you, they have their first job. Can you just like do a quick budgeting session with them? Can you just like sit with them? Well, we'll pay for it. Like, please. Like, all right. So it started organically and it happened again and again and again. And I very quickly realized after working with a few of the teens that I was working with, I'm like, wow, these teens are up against something that is so different than even what I'm 40, even what I had growing up in the 90s and the 80s. And I'm like, oh my God, that's so wild. It's really hard for them. And there's a lot of conflict. A lot of parents are worried, and I completely understand why they're worried. And so that drew me to it immediately. And then, when you start to see trends and like, you're like, okay, this is a solvable problem. And that's where the idea for the book was born. And then once there was a book, I spent the last 2 years working with teenagers on the side of my day job while I was writing this book to sort of learn about what's going on with them, what their consistent questions are, like what's happening, and help sort of shape and shift what I can put into this book so it's actually realistic for them.
We love a multi-passionate professional. That's amazing. I love that story. Yeah, well, this is kind of the flavor right now, and this is what I'm doing right now, and I think that's incredible. So tell me, before we get into the teens in the book, you're talking about the feelings that these adults are having and how it's kind of bubbling onto our offspring. And I speak to a lot of clients every day, and these feelings come up. How can we stop our money garbage or our money baggage from spilling onto our children?
I'm not sure that we 100% can stop it ever, in the same way that no one's perfect, and I'm a parent and I'm not perfect. I think what we can strive to do as parents, and actually this has been an offshoot of the book that I didn't anticipate. I've had a lot of parents write me and say having it as like a third party tool to help them like navigate these tough conversations with their teen has been helpful. And I didn't expect that at all, actually. So that's been fun. But I think, and what I think they're doing, and what I would say I've practiced in my life, is just, you just have to be mindful. So if you hear yourself saying the stuff that you're like later on, you're like, oh, I wish I didn't say that, or I said that wrong, just like go say sorry and just be like, I have some money stuff. I don't want to pass that on to you, but it's happened. It happened and I said it. And like, here's why I feel like that. And here's what I'm afraid of. And here's why I said that. And what I learned so much about these teens too is like, they're open to that kind of vulnerability. Like, this is a generation that's grown up with like mental health being at a casual conversation. Like, they don't have the same taboo thoughts about vulnerability and sharing and stuff like that. So like, be honest with your teen and just like say sorry and like acknowledge it and use it as a learning opportunity. And then like, obviously unbiased, this book can help navigate that, because I think sometimes we just need like a structure to help that conversation along, right? I do this with my clients who are fighting about money in their relationships. It's the same idea.
Wow, you're running this interview for me. You did the perfect segue, because I want to get into the book's structure, but I also want to acknowledge that, oh, parents, we can be human, and we can go and we can say sorry for our money stuff to our children, and it doesn't have to be this big thing that's not erasable. We can have it exist and then also move on from it. So thank you for that. Now let's talk about the book structure. It's organized into parts, and I sense that there's a reason for that. So tell my audience a little bit about how you've laid out the book.
So I laid it out. So the book is like, there's two things that are going on that it took me a while to figure this out. And that's what so much of the research was about. So again, I've been 20 years on the front line of financial planning from all walks of life. And I know within my bones, like in my soul, that even if it doesn't matter if somebody is like, doesn't make a lot of money or is a super wealthy person, the actual skill set of managing your resources is the same. So it doesn't matter if we're like talking barter days where you've like got a cow and you're milking it and trading it. It doesn't matter. These are the skills that you manage resources with to make sure that you can like not run out. And so that's all money is. It's our resource that we have to make sure we manage so it doesn't run out. Like, that's literally it. And so I was looking at all the advice that I've been giving all the adults, and all the adults that have said to me, like, I wish I learned this earlier. I wish I didn't have, you know what I mean? And I was like, okay, the habits are, there's 5. That's it. First, we need to know how to like figure out how much money we make, which is like tracking your income, which sounds so silly, but you have no idea how many people, adult or the teens I was working with, are like, I don't actually know how much money I make. So like, I know my salary, but I don't actually, there's lots of stuff going on. I don't actually know what I make after tax, like what's mine and what's not mine. So like figuring that out. And with the teens, the number one question I would get from them, the first question, this is why I structured that as the first thing, was like, they're like, I want to afford this thing. Or like, my mom and I are fighting because I want this like $80 primer at Sephora and she thinks it's silly. So like, okay, well, like, can you afford it? I don't know. Well, what do you make? I don't know. So it's like, okay, so you can't figure out what you can afford if you don't know what you make. So that is the first part of the book. That's the first habit. You need to figure out what you have. The second is like saving. And then for that, I mean, obviously that's why we're all here. But to me, it's about the habit of saving. The actual practice of money comes in and you don't spend all of it is so powerful. And the more you're able to practice that habit, the more it just becomes second nature. And the difference between long-term and short-term savings and really going on that. The third is like, it's spending, which is the word budget. I hate the word budget. It sounds like the word diet, whatever. It's about budgeting. I call it spending because it's a nicer word for it. Because obviously once you put money aside, you have less that you have to live within.
Yeah.
And this is a life skill that we all struggle with. And then enjoying your money, which is about the relationship with money, being able to speak confidently about it, being empowered when you're talking about money. Imagine we taught it to our kids that way. And that's part of that relationship stuff that we were just talking about. And then the last one is growing your money, which is the investment, which is where they all want to jump to. Like, they're like, cool, I just need to know how to like double my money in like a month. I'm like, great. So it's broken down into those 5 parts and it's written from 4 characters. So it reads like a novel, it reads like a book, and it doesn't read like a textbook, which was very important to me.
Absolutely. And I took a quick read through it, and it is the narrative style in everything right now is the most engaging. And I think that especially our preteens and teens have been just bombarded with these things that tell the brain dopamine. So sitting down with a book is sometimes a little bit difficult. But if I have little kiddos, they're 8 and 6 right now. But when it's time, how do you think is the best way to present the book so that it's the most effective for my teens?
So I think, so you nailed a couple of things. Number one, when I was talking to the teenagers that I was working with, they were saying that even though some of them are learning it in school now, it's so dry and it feels like a textbook. So I was like, okay, this has to read like a story. So it's very
I'm a cool finance pro, not a normal finance pro.
Yeah, I'm not cool though. I just like, it's like more like, this is just like, it reads quick. It's a quick read. It's very dialogue heavy. And it's like, bop, 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 bop. So number one. Number two, there's about 3 types of teenagers, and the motivational tactics have been really interesting for me to learn this too. So, yeah. So the first is like the keen teen, I call them. And like, this is a slam dunk. And parents who are listening to this will know if your kid is one of them. They're already asking about money stuff. Maybe they're 14 talking about day trading, like who knows? They are interested in learning about money. They are wanting to know about money and they have questions, or they've got their first job and they want to know what to do with it. And like, this is a slam dunk. There's no need for you to motivate them. Just give them the book and they'll read it. So that's a keen teen. And we all wish that was the case, but it's often not. And then there's the second type, which is like, there's conflict in the house. And it's like, this is where the journey all started for me, is helping with that conflict. And so I've had parents where that conflict might be, my teen keeps asking for money. They have a job, but they keep overspending on stuff that I don't agree with. And then they keep coming to me and we're in this constant locked in battle. I feel guilty. I feel bad. I have no boundaries. So one method that can be really helpful to get a teen to read it who doesn't want to read it, but it would be helpful in the household, is like, okay, we're fighting, like you're cut off, which I know sounds hardcore, but it's not for long. We're going to read this book together. You'll read it, I'll read it at the same time. And then we're going to come back and redesign how asking for money works in our house. So like, I want to support you and I want you to have money and I don't want you to miss the thing with your friends. But at the same time, like, I can't always just be reacting. Like we need boundaries here on both sides. So let's both read it and then we'll make a plan together. And so like having it be like, it is a cutoff, but it's more like because we need to redesign it, not because you're cut off forever. It's more about like pausing, redesigning. And that's very motivating for a teen who's worried that they don't have money coming, like, you know what I mean? That's very motivating. And then the book is actually fun. So I think it's like, I've heard feedback that like once they cracked it open, they're like, oh, it's actually pretty fun to read, but it was just that initial push. And then the last one is like, there's no conflict. The kid wants to know, but isn't really a reader. Like I had a lot of this with the older teens. Like my kid doesn't read anymore. They used to be an avid reader and now they've kind of stopped. And I didn't suggest this, but I will share it with your audience. I've had many parents do this. They like paid their kid to read it. So they're like, hey, I'll give you extra. I'll like open this investment account, I'll put $50 in it, and you can buy whatever stock you want. Like, I'll do it. I'll trade for you. But like, you got to read this book first. I'm not doing it until you can prove it. So it's really interesting. Like, I've written 4 books. I've never had to have motivational tactics to get someone to read it. But I think a lot of them are more keen than you think too. I think we have this idea of teenagers being like total haters on stuff, but like this generation is learning about money from smartphones like at the age of 13. And so like they I think they have questions more than we may even think. You know what I mean? So it surprised me a lot.
I want to dig into that a little bit because you said you've seen some trends, you're seeing this information come up. What makes this generation of kids unique, and what makes the way they see money unique or different from what you and I, who grew up in the 90s, would have been experiencing?
Yeah, the big thing that hit me like right away was that this is an entire cohort of people who grew up not seeing money. Their parents tapped.
Yeah.
Well, when I was a kid, I went to the bank with my parents on a Friday with a bank book, and they took out money, and then I watched them give it to the pizza man. Yes. So this generation has grown up with parents tapping and buying online. So they don't actually see money, like physically see it. Maybe some of them during those babysitting years, they might get some cash from like somebody who still does that, but mostly e-transfer. They really don't see cash. And so the concept of money is so much more detached, and as a resource, it seems like points. And like, they understand that you need money to buy things, but I don't think we have a physical relationship with it at all. And I think that is so much harder for them than it was for us, because you don't have the opportunity to have a physical relationship with money. That's so unique. Number 2, the other thing that makes this generation super unique is the opportunity for trouble is exponentially worse at 18. So I think that this book didn't matter 10 years ago, and it super matters now. Everybody is going to screw up with money when they first start. 100%. We all did. But you know, when even like 10, 15 years ago, if a young person turned 18 and they wanted to like buy a stock, buying a penny stock and gambling all their money or putting all their money on it, it was like a difficult thing to do. It was annoying. You can do it from your phone while you're watching a show.
Instantly.
You can buy cryptocurrency with your friends egging you on. You can do all of that in the comfort of your own home without anyone, A, knowing, seeing, doing. And 2, there's like nothing stopping you. And that's super new. So the level of trouble that you can get into at 18 with tap technology, buying this, boom, 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 boom. And and like potentially investing without knowing exactly what you're investing in, all of that is so much higher for them. And that's why I think practicing these skills in high school before they turn 18 is now like critical, instead of it being a nice to have. I think it's critical so they can screw up while the stakes are low, and have this practice, screw up, practice, screw up, be confident, so that by the time they get it, they're like, I know how to handle this. Like, I get it. And so that's a very unique thing about this cohort and the ones coming up below. And then the last thing I would say is just access to information. I was talking to 14-year-olds about day trading. Like, that's new. That's wild. New. 100% new. It's social media, and they have access to some are really great influencers. Like, some of them are listening to podcasts, like the keen teens who want to know about money. And then there's also a really big, marketing to them is difficult to navigate. It's hard for grownups to escape the algorithms. Like, can you imagine a teenage brain? The capacity for want is never ending.
Right? Exactly. Yeah. And so that's so interesting. The intentionality of money that we're kind of forced when we're saving in our piggy bank is gone. It's a concept instead of something. Yeah, yes. That's so interesting. So let me ask you about something then. If we want to give our kids practice with money, they're not ready to work yet, is an allowance a good idea, in your opinion?
Yes. I love an allowance. There's a whole thing on it in the book. I know it's very controversial, but as a money expert, I'm telling you, it is the chance to give your kids an opportunity to practice the habit of saving, to practice the habit of putting that aside and then spending what you have and waiting, delayed gratification. They have to practice it. It is a really hard thing to do. I wouldn't have a job if it was easy. And so and especially hard for kids, to do that, right? Because again, we want stuff. So make it fun and make it doable with small goals. So the other thing that I see parents do with an allowance is it's either not enough, which is, again, you do what you can afford for sure, but it's so nominal that the kid can't really do anything anyways. So it ends up being a bit of a conflict piece in the house, right? So number one, so the amount, like if you can do it, do something that they could maybe actually go to the movies, or maybe actually like, you know, if it's $20, put aside $5, or like, what, you know what I mean? Whatever it is, so they can actually like buy lunch at the cafe, or like afford the Starbucks that they want. Like this is what they want to spend their money on. Number two, make it consistent, like payroll, like you are their employer. And I have noticed that putting the job description, like act like an employer. So there's a job description, and like if they're not meeting their needs, you don't pay it. That's like, have to draw the boundary so that there's that relationship of like effort and pay, and then be consistent with the actual payment. And then this is how you can start introducing the idea of it. And then a lot of people get frustrated because they're like, well, my family should just clean in my house to like be a part of the family and like all that. So establish what are baseline expectations of being a part of the family, and then make the chores or whatever it is that you want to do for the allowance above and beyond. A really good one has been grocery shopping with a little bit older kids, like kids who are like 12, 13. The parent is like, I don't want to spend money on online grocery delivery. You like go to the grocery store and you can like pick that up, or like like ways that the parents are saving money, or starting dinner, or doing like the above and beyond stuff that's not like make your bed because you live here, you know? So
I think that's great advice. And especially for kids who are not the keen teen. I mean, in education, we always want them to go above and beyond, but I would get caught with often, especially with the 13-year-olds. Why?
why?
Why? What's
Yeah.
it doing for me? Why? Well, if then we incentivize it, then there you go. That's the magic. I love that advice. And I'm haven't even thought about allowance yet either, but I will definitely start thinking about it.
When they're older, it's really impactful, and I think essential to teach them how to have money.
So
And do
when
it
do you
with
think is a
cash.
good time to start?
I'd say 10 is I mean, you can start. I have an 8-year-old as well. And like right now we just do like, if he I'll give him like a $2 if he takes the laundry. Like he has regular chores, but he doesn't have an allowance, but we have bonus stuff. So I'm like,
Mm.
hey, you want that Pokemon? Cool. You have a lot, and we're done buying them. But if you want to do some extra stuff, do it. So he'll like take the laundry and bring it upstairs and like help put it away. He'll like put the leaves in the garbage, and then it's like, here's the toonie, and then he gets to $5 and he can go to the store and do it. So like I wouldn't call it an allowance. It's more like incentivizing extra labor so he can get what he wants. But I'm not paying for it. I am, but I'm trying to do that. But I think like the allowance that I'm talking about, which mimics an employer and gives your kid an opportunity, the earliest I would say is 10.
Consistency.
Yeah, the earliest I would say is 10. And the sweet spot for that is like 11, 12, 13 before they can work, and they want money and they want things. They want things. They're going to movies. They have their independence. They want to walk around. They want to, and kids that age, they get restless. They want to go do something. And like often those things cost money, right? If they want to go, like it costs $10 to go to Starbucks and with your friend. You know what I mean? Like that's expensive. And so they want the money, and that's a perfect opportunity to start teaching them.
Yeah, you're so right. So let's talk about another thing that I think it's important that children learn, but it's a very abstract concept, compounding. So when we're talking about compounding on your investments as well as on your debt, what's the best way to introduce that?
So I tackle this in the book in two ways. One of the characters in the book is trying to save up for a video game console, is very impatient. And so the mom, and I did this actually in real life, and then I put it into the book, and this is my advice. The mom was like, on my advice, I'm going to fake a credit card for you. So I'll lend you the money. Like, I'm not buying you this console, but I will buy it today. And then you send me this much money every Friday from your jobs. Like, you owe me this until there. And then we like printed a payback schedule. It was on the fridge. And then it was like, and it's not interest free if you miss a payment. So there's real consequences to it. And then she ended up taking away the video game console because he missed 2 payments in a row and it was done. So like, I think part of the parents' role there, and in all of us, is having these sort of boundaries that you actually do. But as long as it's well talked about beforehand, then it's not unfair. If it's a surprise, that would be super unfair. But I think as far as debt and compounding and debt goes, giving kids an opportunity to fake practice so that they understand getting it now and then paying it off. And then as far as on the positive side, the compounding is like the exciting thing. This is why they all want to invest.
Right.
Right. And so there's a couple of different ways to do this. Number one, you can actually just show them like your like you can show them your investments, or I've had a lot of success with like, you open a trading account with $50 in it or 100, and then you say to your kid like, okay, like what companies do you think are cool? And then within that, you can buy them, and then they can watch how boring it actually is. It should be boring. And the problem is the ones that are watching like Wall Street Bets online and stuff like that, it's like desensitizing of these extremes.
Yes.
And they think that it's like investing, oh, that's boring. And it's like, it should be. Like real wealth is created over the long run, and it is slow and steady, and it wins the race. It's not instant, and it's not like that's akin to gambling, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So that's huge. And I think showing them that, and if you want to open a little side account with like $100 or $50 in it and show them, and they can watch, they get to pick the companies and they get to watch them, is a really cool way to get them engaged in watching the flow and also what compounding is. So like, see, we put in $100 there. Now we have 102, and now that's earning money. Like that $2 is earning money, like that kind of idea.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's interesting because it's not investing at its best really should be slow and boring.
Yes.
And I speak to so many different professionals, and I always say you need a plan, and it's not sexy, it's not fun. It's just continuously working that muscle, just like you would in the gym, just being consistent even when the motivation is gone. I think that's such a great point. So let's talk about your intention with the book. What would you like to see happen for kiddos who are reading the book, or maybe within the relationship between the parents and the children?
I think fundamentally, the long and short of it is, I would love to have like the generation of teens who avoid whatever, like that don't have to learn the hard way. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like what happens when they turn 18. And also come into adulthood, because they're going to have they're going to have so many different things in their term than we will, right? And they're going to have to pivot. So I want them to come into adulthood feeling confident about that they can pivot at any time, and they have the skills. It doesn't matter. Like if they're trading digital coins, like they understand fundamentally the skills that are necessary for like a good financial life, and the confidence to talk about money. So they don't have a lot of baggage with it. Like they're coming in confident and empowered about like how the world's going to open up to them, versus feeling like money is this thing that they're never going to have, that they're scared of, that they have to be afraid of, that they can't talk about, or anything like that.
Oh, I love that sentiment because, yeah, we want our teens coming up into the world who are resilient and excited about the opportunity that the money's going to afford them, not scared and anxious. And I'm sure there will be folks who fall on both sides, but I think that that's a worthy thing to shoot for. Now, tell the audience where they can get your book. I grabbed mine on Amazon, but if it is available at your local bookstore, definitely go and grab it. What else is coming from you?
Yeah. So you can get it at a local bookstore, at any of the Indigos there, online, all that kind of stuff. And then that is like, it just came out like 10 days ago, like officially anyways, which is exciting. I am going to be doing a bit of speaking tour. So that'll be coming up and posted in the fall for back to school. So that's very exciting. And then otherwise I'm just riding the high of this book just coming out now, and I'm really thrilled about it. Actually, it's fun.
I can feel the joy coming off of you. You can tell it was a labor of love, and it's really, I can't wait to read it from front to back. I'm just so excited. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. I so enjoyed our conversation, Shannon.